my friends, where time rewinds and never ends. Josh the collector leads the way in a world of heroes from yesterday.
What is going on, everybody? It's Josh here, and we have episode 19 coming at you right now. Old school cards. This, if you're reading the ticker at the bottom of the screen, this is the transition episode. What does that mean? Well, I appreciate everybody who's been here with me this whole time, but we're going back to the very beginning, and we are going to start talking some vintage baseball cards. So that's what the transition episode means. We're simply just transitioning to baseball cards and vintage baseball. So I hope you stick around. I hope you like the stuff that I prepared for this episode, and let's get right into it. All right. So hopefully the audio is a little better. I plugged in my microphone. A little better, a little clearer. So like I said, guys, we're transitioning back to vintage sports cards. That is my other passion in the collecting world. Episode 19, what a better way to transition than talk about the 1957 season and, more importantly, 1957 tops. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And then I'm also going to share a story from my childhood that hopefully resonates with other collectors. So before we talk about the 1957 top set and why it's a transition set, we're going to talk about the 1957 season. The season started on April 15th, 1957, and it concluded September 29th, 1957. That was the regular season before the playoffs. Your American League MVP was Mickey Mantle. He received 69% of the votes, and that year he had a really good year, 34 home runs, 94 RBIs. He batted .365 and had a 1.177 OPS, finishing the year with 11.3 WAR. And how about that beautiful 57 Mantle card right there in the beginning, or not right there in the beginning, right there in the middle of your screen. I hope you can enjoy that. Let me go ahead and take that off so we can appreciate that Mickey Mantle card. The National League MVP for 1957, none other than Mr. Hank Aaron, old Henry Aaron of the Milwaukee Braves. That season, Hank Aaron, 44 home runs, 132 RBIs. His batting average was .322, and he had a .978 OPS. He received 71% of the votes with an 8 WAR on the year. Our Cy Young, Warren Spahn, also of the Milwaukee Braves, 21-11, 2.69 ERA, 271 innings pitched, 111 strikeouts, and 4.8 WAR. He got 94% of the Cy Young votes. We can go back to the American League Rookie of the Year. This was a funny year. Both the guys who won Rookie of the Year are not who you would think, considering the rookie class was pretty strong, but sometimes it works out that way. So American League Rookie of the Year, Tony Kubek, of the New York Yankees. He played in 127 games, and he had a 297 batting average and a 2.5 WAR. The National League Rookie of the Year was a pitcher, Jack Sanford of the Philadelphia Phillies. He went 19 and 8 with a 3.08 ERA, a 4.4 WAR, with 236 and two-thirds innings pitched with 188 strikeouts. So those are your two Rookie of the Years. Not Brooks Robinson. Frank Robinson won it the year before, but his rookie card came out in 57. But not him, not Drysdale. It was Kubek and Sanford. Moving into the postseason, 1957, the World Series was played between the New York Yankees and the Milwaukee Braves. The Milwaukee Braves and Hank Aaron won in 7 games. And the MVP of that series was Lou Burdett, the pitcher, and he won games 2, 5, and 7 for Milwaukee. So that's a little bit of the history from the 1957 season. But as we know, this is a vintage card show. So now we get to talk about the 1957 Topps set. Why is this a transitional set? Because there are 3 firsts with 1957 Topps. The first was that it is the first series or the first set of cards released that were 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, which is the common standard card size we still use today. That was the first time they were released, 1957 Topps. Also, the first set released with full color photography. So prior to the 1957 Topps set, what would happen in your baseball cards would be that they would get released, a photo would get released, and then artists would draw the photo, and that drawing or that rendering would end up on the card. So the cards were based off of a photo, but they were not the actual photo. And 1957 Topps is also the first card on the back where it included the career stats for a player, not just the previous season like years before. They found a way to incorporate career stats. So when you flip over a 57 Topps and you look at the back, it will have the career stats on the back. So let's look at the set. It was released in 5 series. Series 1 through 4 were 88 cards apiece. They were released at separate times. And the 5th series covered cards 353 to 407. It's a 407 card set. When we're looking at the cards, out of the 407 cards, there are 38 Hall of Famers in the set, and 6 of them are Hall of Fame rookies. So 6 Hall of Famers rookie cards are in the 1957 Topps set. Something else interesting to note is that it's the first set that was released that didn't have Jackie Robinson in it, because he did not travel with the Dodgers to Los Angeles from Brooklyn. So his final season, he chose to retire at the end of the 1956 season. So here are some of these full color picture sets. I put some stars up right here. So that's Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, and Ted Williams. Beautiful pictures taken at the ballpark. And those are what got put on the front of the cards. Here's some rookie cards. Brooks Robinson, Don Drysdale, Frank Robinson, And we are going to take our time and look at, here are some more, here's just a layout of the first time 2.5 by 3.5, first time full color photos, and the first time career stats, which is why it's a perfect set to discuss when we're talking about transition. It was a big transition year for sports cards. Topps did a great job with their photos. So let's look at some of these cards. We'll look at some stars. We'll look at some rookies. Mickey Mantle, 1957 Topps. The raw is average about $350. That one varies. Of course, if you're looking at vintage cards, a priority is being more and more placed on eye appeal. So overall eye appeal. So whether the card's graded or not, it might command a higher price. PSA 5 goes for about $1,320. And if we're comparing to an SGC 5, $1,140. Now, I wasn't a big fan of how I laid this out, so I want to give some better comparisons moving forward. So now we're going to look at arguably the greatest player of that generation, Willie Mays. His PSA 5 about $329, while a PSA 3 is averaging $213. Now, these numbers I'm not just pulling out of the blue. I'm using market movers, and I'm looking at the last 90 days of their sales. So this is not a last month. This is over the last 90 days. An SGC 5 of Willie Mays, 311, and an SGC 3, 170. And this is where I wanted to go with the prices, because oftentimes with vintage, a card will grade higher, but the eye appeal may be just as good on a 3 as a 5. Now, the finite little nuances of the card will change the grade, but you can very easily find a PSA 3 that looks just as good or better than a PSA 5. So this is your ballpark price range if you're going to a card show, or if you're looking to pick one of these cards up, what you can expect to spend. And lately there's been a trend of people are reporting, especially at card shows, that people who want their cards are overpaying. They're paying above comps. So PSA 5 may be averaging $329, but you may end up spending $400 on that card if you want it bad enough, because there are people out there who are doing that right now. So that's the trend in the vintage world that everybody's talking about on their channels and on their podcasts. Pretty much that's the only content I consume outside of actual sports. Ted Williams, PSA 5, 430 over the last 90 days. PSA 3 has been 203 over the last 90. SGC 5, 339 over the last 90, and an SGC 3, 233. And something that's interesting, this is the only 57 card that I have, and I'll show it at the end, is a Ted Williams. I plan on getting more, but currently I am pursuing some bigger cards and actually saving my card budget for the Dallas card show that's supposed to be happening on the 4th of July in Dallas. So the plan is to go pick up, I don't know, at least one major card at that card show. And I would like to do business with Ash. I've seen him there several times before. But I've been saving my card budget for quite some time, and I am hoping to pick up a very big card there, and I'm not going to spoil it, so we're going to just have to wait till we get closer to that card show to get there. Hank Aaron, PSA 5, $389, while a PSA 3, $214. Pretty big difference in a 2-grade bump. This is the first card that we're looking at that the SGC is actually higher over the last 90 days than PSA 5. So the SGC 5, $439, so $50 higher, and the SGC 3, $204, which is actually lower than the PSA 3. So I just want to give you guys something that you can look at when you're making your decision while you're buying cards. Now, you can't go wrong anytime you buy Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, especially of the basic flagship sets, right? Topps, Bowman. You can't go wrong when you're buying any of these guys. So we can't go wrong when you're looking at these guys. These guys are good long-term buys. Me personally, when I buy a card like this, I'm not purchasing it to resell it. I am purchasing it to go into my collection until I'm pass away, essentially, until I can hand it down to the wife and the kids. Frank Robinson rookie, PSA 5, $346, and a PSA 3, $207 over the last 90. Comparatively, SGC 5, $327, and a SGC 3, $155. That's a beautiful card. Brooks Robinson, a lot of people don't like this card, but it's kind of like a portrait card, so it's pretty cool to me. By far the most expensive rookie in the set. PSA 5 is $723 over the last 90, while a 3 is about $448 over the last 90. SGC 5, $590 over the last 90, and a 3, $447. Now, I can show you my card. It's a 57 Topps Ted Williams. I really wanted this card, and it was a really good deal. It's typically not a card I would buy, and I'll explain why here in a second. So this is mine. I purchased the day before Christmas in 2003. Out the door. That's my out the door price, $122.35. But if you look closely, right next to his belt line, there's a hole in the card, which it didn't bother me because it doesn't affect his features. It's literally in a dark spot of the card, and if you look above his right shoulder, there's a pen mark of an X. So this card was in such good condition that with a hole and writing on the front, it got a 1 from SGC. That's how nice the card is. And it's an amazing card. So that's the only 57 Topps that I own currently, but I plan on picking up more. And I'm going to try and show you another card here because I want to tell a personal story. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when people are young, and this is how people get into collecting. They stay into collecting. So it's going to be kind of hard to see because I have a background on and I don't have my green screen set up yet. So this is a LAPD Dare card, but if you look closely, it's autographed, blue ink, right here, kind of hard to see, right here. Darryl Strawberry autographed that card. And I've had that card since I was in the 4th grade. 1993 was Darryl Strawberry's last year with the Dodgers. But funny thing is I went to a lot of Dodger games when I was a kid, and I used to sit out there in right field, and I would yell and scream at Strawberry to, hey, come, I was a kid. I wasn't smart enough to realize he's not going to come over between innings and sign a ball or sign a card. But he was at that in 1993. He was my favorite player, and I could go see him when I went to Dodger Stadium. Well, come to find out that I happened to go to school with Ron Renicke's son, Lance Renicke. Lance was 5 years younger than me, so I was in fourth grade. He was in preschool. We went to a private school, so it was a small school, the outskirts of LA, and I would get dropped off early in the morning because I had both parents in the home who worked, and I'd get picked up late in the afternoon. So when I got dropped off, there was one lady who did the morning daycare essentially, and you go sign in. Well, I talked to her every day, and I talked to her about playing baseball, and I talked to her about baseball cards. And she had mentioned to me one time that there was a student in her class, she was the preschool teacher, whose dad was a coach for the Dodgers. And we talked about how cool that must be and how neat that was, and just left it at that. Well, one morning I came in and she says, hey, I got something for you. And it's that Darryl Strawberry card, autographed. And she told me that she had spoke to Ron Renicke, to the student's dad, told him how big of a fan of Darryl Strawberry I was. I must have talked about him a lot. And so one day he came in, had it signed, and gave it to her. Said, hey, give it to the boy who talks about baseball cards and all of that. So that's how I acquired that card. Is it valuable? Heck no. It's all beat up. It's a offbeat card signed by Darryl Strawberry. I mean, it's not authenticated, nothing. But where I went to school, that connection I had with that teacher, the passion I had even back then, but I still have that card today. And it's so cool to think about Ron Renicke, what he did for somebody he didn't know. I've never met the guy. So if you happen to see this video, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It ignited a passion in me. I mean, there was already a passion there, but many of you, if you know my story, I worked in law enforcement for almost 20 years in Southern California. And then I moved to Texas, and now I am a coach. I coach high school sports. I coach football, basketball, track, and baseball. So, and baseball is the sport I've coached for about 15 years. So I know it's nothing compared to the career that Ron Renicke has had, but if you do ever happen to see this, or if somebody who watches this video knows him, I just want to say thank you for thinking of somebody and not even knowing the profound impact that something that kind of an act of kindness would have. I mean, I'm sure he dealt with kids all the time, but especially having a son of his own and doing all of that. But I never interacted with the guy. I'd love to shake his hand and tell him thank you personally. But here I am all these years later in my 40s, and I'm coaching baseball, and I love it. And I've done it for the last 15 years. Started in California before I moved to Texas, and now I coach high school baseball and having a blast doing it. And it's little things like that. People do something so small, but it makes a lasting impression. And I just wanted to tell that story about Darryl Strawberry, Ron Renicke. I will always root for Ron Renicke wherever he goes, just because of what he did for me. And he doesn't even know me. I mean, things were so much different back then. I talk to people all the time, and it's a difficult time to be a coach because kids were not like they're not like now. They aren't like it was when I was a kid. We played sports in our free time. Kids today want to play video games and they don't want to watch baseball. I literally got up every single day, and my grandfather would get the newspaper delivered to the house, or he would pick it up when he went to the donut shop in the morning. Um, and I would go into his office and I would get the sports section of the newspaper to see what was going on in the baseball world. I did it every single day for years until I moved out of the house. So that's the kind of sports nut that I grew up. And I'm so blessed now that, we have internet and MLB TV and we can watch any game. You couldn't do that when we were kids. You couldn't do it. You could get the local market teams and that was it. And everybody else, you had to find a way to get information. And for about 3 years, I actually had become a Seattle Mariner fan because I love Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson and all of those guys. For about 3 years, I cut the box score out of the newspaper every day, any kind of article that was written about them, and I taped them into a notebook. And I probably still have that notebook somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but that's how much of a dedicated person I was to the game. And I'm still learning so much about the game of baseball. And one thing I can say is I watch modern baseball, and I do have some guys that I collect some of their cards. I'm very picky about it. But one of the beautiful things about vintage baseball cards is there are so many things that were done in that vintage era that we're never going to see again. We will probably never see another 300 game winner just because baseball is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. So some of these records that we see, we may never see go down. You think anybody's ever going to strike out 5,000 guys again? Nolan Ryan did it. We're not going to see it again. So you can go spend your money on Paul Skeens or whoever, but we're not going to see a 5,000 strikeout guy. Not only did he strike out 5,000 guys, but he never won a Cy Young. How crazy is that? But I'm talking home run records. I mean, look, people, and this might be a controversial statement, but people can say whatever they want about Barry Bonds and all the stuff and everything, and I get it. I do get it. But, okay, he used steroids and he barely broke the record. That's how big that record is. Do you think we're ever going to see somebody hit 755 home runs again? There's only been 4 or 5 guys who ever hit 700 home runs in their career. Every time people latch on to a new big thing every year, oh, Bobby Witt Jr., love Bobby Witt Jr., I collect some of his stuff, but I'm talking about guys who transcend the game of baseball. Ty Cobb, Cy Young, Honus Wagner, Rogers Hornsby. It's not a coincidence, folks, that we haven't had a 400 hitter since the 1940s. The last one to do it, Josh Gibson, I don't want to get this wrong, 1943, 1946, something like that. Hasn't been done in 70 years. We're not going to see it again. And the beauty of it is all these guys, Ted Williams, you want to collect Ted Williams? Great. Guess what? He's not going to go out tomorrow and get injured. He already passed away. His legacy is cemented in the history books forever. So while guys are going around spending thousands of dollars on superfractors and this is going to be maybe another controversial statement. I don't know. Let me know. Email me. If you want to come on my show, you want to talk about this, I'd love to have you. My email's right there on the screen. But honestly, guys, let's think about this for a second. oldschoolcards24@gmail. Reach out to me. But let's think about this for a second. Okay. You want to go spend thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars on Wander Franco, and then the dude gets arrested? Come on. That's money gone, right? You want to spend money where there's real value and history. Go buy a Honus Wagner card. Go buy a Cy Young card. Shoot, they have an award named after that guy. You know, we're not going to see these guys ever again. We're going to see some great players, no doubt. But pitchers, they hardly ever throw complete games anymore. They hardly ever throw multiple games on short rest or whatever. You know, you're not going to see 30-game winners. It's just not going to happen. But that's from the history perspective. Now, let's look at the simplicity perspective of collecting vintage players. In 1957, you had Topps. They had already purchased Bowman, and so you had Topps and Fleer, and then you have your one-offs, which are cool stuff too, getting them in Cracker Jacks or loaves of bread or the Wilson Franks, those types of things. 1954 was the Wilson Franks. That's the Ted Williams. But you don't have to go chasing 15 different products and different rainbows. I mean, you get the guy, you got the guy. And guess what? It doesn't have to be a PSA 10. You can get yourself a PSA 1, a PSA 2 of a true legend of the game for a reasonable price in all these cards. I mean, the most expensive card we saw was the Brooks Robinson, and it was an $800 card in a 5, which would be what's considered a collector's grade, right? You can go get pieces of history that aren't going to lose their value. They're only going to maintain value, and they can be a part of the story. And that's why, like, I'm saving up money to make a big purchase. I could put that money in my bank account and order the card off of eBay and go to my P.O. box and pick it up. But I don't want to do that. I want to have a personal experience with those cards. So I hope you guys enjoyed the transition episode. It was a ton of fun making it, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Please reach out to me. I'll put I'll put it back up here. That's my email, oldschoolcards24@gmail. If you want to come on, you want to talk vintage baseball cards, let's do it. Reach out, let me know, and we'll make it happen, because I am super passionate about this. Obviously, I'm talking about my Darryl Strawberry autographed Dare card, but this is how I connect with everybody. So till next time, guys, keep collecting what you love. Be safe. I hope you had a great Easter, and let's finish the school year strong and go into the summer with the boys of summer, watching baseball, talking baseball, and let's go find the cards that we want to put in our collection. Have a good one, guys.